Coach Tony Dungy, it's such a pleasure to see you and talk with you as always. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes with us.
Well, thank you, Rod. It's always great to be with you and exciting time of the year as well.
It really is. So we're talking Super Bowl, and you know a few things about that. Which is let's start with what the coaches must be feeling right now, leading up to the big day.
Yeah, I tell you what, Rod, you talk all the coach speak and you try to tell your team it's just another game and everything's the same and we're going to do everything. It's not. Things start from right after that championship game. You build up, you have press conferences every day. You have all these things that are going on at this game site. And you realize before the end of the week that there's going to be 150, 200 million people watching this game, and the winners are going to be the champions, and the losers are going to say, "Gosh, everything we put into this season, uh, as great as it went down the drain in one night." So it's not just another game.
I mean, it's sort of like the metaphor of the two sides to the coin toss. But let's talk about the one side where you get there, you play your heart out, and you don't win. What is going through a coach's head and players' heads when they get to that point?
I never had that happen. Fortunately, we won. I went one time as a player. We won. Went one time as a coach, and we won. And it's just fabulous. And I can't even picture having the post-game celebrations and the parties and coming home with a loss because it's so devastating. I've lost in the championship game, lost in playoff rounds, but I can't even imagine the feeling that you're that close to a championship and you don't quite get it done. It's got to be very, very difficult.
So then let's talk about what you do know. That feeling when that clock ticks down and it hits zero and you're the victor.
Yeah, Super Bowl 13 for me. I was a 22-year-old kid and with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we won it. And you realize, gosh, we're the best in the world. For my teammates, it was their third one, but for me and some of the other young guys, it was our first championship. But to know that all that hard work from the beginning of mini camp, training camp, regular season, playoff games, everything you put into it for 23, 24 weeks, now you can sit back in that locker room and the champagne's flowing and everybody's giving congratulations and you just sit there and say, "Hey, we did this." And there's a sense of accomplishment and gratification for sure.
As a coach, you have to feel, and it's funny because you aren't coaching anymore in a sense, but everyone still calls you coach because of who you are and the person that you are, the mentor that you are. You have guided this team this whole season, and you get to that point where you make it. That has to be like the proudest dad feeling ever.
It really is. And, I shared what was going through my mind as a player, but when you win it as a coach, you're there and they're building the platform to do the trophy presentation. Half of the stadium files out, the other team's fans. So
Yeah.
now it's just your fans. Your families are coming over the fences and coming onto the field, and the players are kissing their wives and their kids. And you see all of that happen and you realize this isn't just these 53 players and us 10 or 15 coaches. This is the city, this is the state of Indiana, this is everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's excited about this and you realize you've done it for the organization, for the town. It's just a great feeling.
You were the first black head coach to win a Super Bowl. Describe that moment and its importance.
I was a young coach in 1988 when Washington won it and Doug Williams was the quarterback. And I remember sitting there in my living room saying, "This is going to make a huge difference. African American quarterbacks now are going to get more opportunities. People see that we can be leaders, and Doug Williams has changed things." Well, 15 years later, it's me. And I didn't feel it at the time, but people said the same thing. Boy, coaches are going to get opportunities now. People will start looking outside the box. And sure enough, that was the year that Mike Tomlin got hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mhm.
And so you think, well, here's an iconic franchise that now takes a chance on a young, somewhat unknown coach at that time. Man, we're making progress, and it was a good feeling. I also felt like I was representing 50 or 100 coaches that might have been able to do that but didn't get the opportunity. And I felt good about that, hey, you know what, the focus is going to be on me, but I can direct it towards some of these guys who just didn't get the chance.
A lot of people say you kicked the door down, but I would argue that you successfully over the years just dismantled the hinges to make that happen because it wasn't like it was some immediate thing. You worked really hard and a long time to get there.
Yeah, I came into the league, Rod, as a young player in 1977. There were 10 African American coaches in the entire league, no head coaches. 18 teams didn't have any African American coaches on their staff. So you could go 2 or 3 weeks and not see another black face on the opposite sideline. And to go from there to, okay, working our way through, and then I was able to hire on my staff Mike Tomlin and Jim Caldwell and Herm Edwards and Leslie Frazier, and guys who would go on to become head coaches, go to the playoffs, and in some cases go to the Super Bowl. Lovie Smith. So to see it from that standpoint, where there were so few coaches at one point to now people getting opportunities, it was a slow process, but it felt good. It really did.
Yeah, you let's talk for a moment about one of the more sad moments. For me it was. I'll put it that way. When I first moved to Tampa, you were the head coach there, had been the head coach, and I think was it '02
Mm-hmm.
when you were let go?
Yep.
I remember seeing the video of you walking out with your box of stuff, and I think it was even
Right.
raining. It
Yep.
felt like a
Yep.
movie.
Yep.
That moment, what did that feel like for you? I mean, we've all had disappointments in life, but that had to be a hard one.
That was super disappointing. I had been there 6 years. I came, we'd had 13 straight losing seasons, and we just talked about becoming respectable again. If we could just be respectable, that would be great. Well, we ended up going to the playoffs 4 times in 6 years. We were that close to the Super Bowl against the Rams, had a new stadium built, we're selling out, had the fan base behind us, and had some really good players. So you feel good about where we're going. Ownership says that we don't think you're the guy to take us to that next level. We're going in another direction. And it was very, very disappointing. And I didn't know what was going to happen, but my faith in the Lord, Rod, just said something out there is going to be waiting. I don't know where it is, what it is, but something good is going to come out of this. And 3 days later, Jim Irsay called me from the Colts, and he said, I like what you did in Tampa. That's the kind of thing we're trying to put in place. I'd love for you to come and be my head coach.
You talk about your style as a head coach and how that initially wasn't something that these owners were looking for because you're not a yeller and you're not a screamer. How difficult was it to kind of get people to understand that there's more than one way to get something done?
I think we'd had this image, this caricature, especially back then, of what the coach looked like, what he sounded like, what he acted like. And so many of those owners at that time had grown up watching Vince Lombardi and George Halas on the sideline, and they saw these rough, gruff, in their mind, tough looking people. So when you came across by saying, well, I'm going to have the respect of my players, I think I'm going to get them to do a lot of great things, but maybe in a different way and do it differently than has been done. And it took a long time. I went through several years of interviews of not getting jobs, of people saying they wanted somebody more demonstrative, somebody with more of their type of leadership skills. But that was one of the things that I felt good about on that victory podium at the Super Bowl, showing people there is a different way to do things. You can climb to the top and not necessarily do it like everyone else.
Did you ever second guess that decision and think maybe I need to just yell a little more?
I did. When you get fired and it doesn't work out, you start thinking through things. But then everybody, friends, and even people I didn't know that well in the business called me and just said, "Hey, you did a great job. You've got to be yourself. Don't worry about it." And that really helped getting that encouragement from other people.
Yeah, I mean, you are who you are. I think we are who we are, so we have to stay true to who we are as people and as people of faith. So as we head into this Super Bowl in New Orleans, what are you expecting?
Well, maybe the unexpected. I don't know. You really do try to tell yourself, hey, we just have to keep doing what we've done all year. We have to not let the moment become too great for us, not change things up, but you're going to see somebody just raise their level of play a little bit, and where that's going to come from, we don't know. But it's fun times, it's exciting times, and New Orleans is a great place to have a Super Bowl because
Yes, it is.
everything is in one place. You can walk everywhere. Both teams' fans are going to be right there, intermingling, and it's just a great, great city for a big game.
And we certainly saw a lot of that grit in the playoffs. I mean, there were some hard fought wins and very hard fought disappointed losings too.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And that's what you realize. All of our hopes, all of our dreams sometimes can come down to one play or one situation where I didn't quite execute like I know I can. And that's what when you come into the Super Bowl game, that is the one thing I tried to emphasize to my team. There's going to be 120 plays in this game. We don't know which one is going to be that crucial one. So we've got to play every one of those plays at our level. We can't slump, we can't take one play off because you just don't know if that's going to be the one that tells the story.
And there's so many times when one play tells a story. And I'm going to back up a few years back. As a 22-year-old going into the Super Bowl, the moment you walked out onto that field, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps and I ain't never played a lick of football. I can't
It
imagine what you must have been feeling.
It was unbelievable, Rod. I went out there for the warm-ups, and I remember saying to myself, there's been 12 of these games, and I've watched every single one of them on television. And now I'm out here on this field, and people are watching me. I could not believe it. And it took me like half the warm-ups to kind of get through that and say, okay, I've got to go play. But it was stunning. And then, of course, I'm playing. I've got 9 of my teammates who are going to be in the Hall of Fame eventually. I know they're great players. On the other side is Tony Dorsett and Roger Staubach and uh,
Yes.
just Drew Pearson and on and on and on. The Cowboys have a galaxy of stars too. And I remember saying, and this is the best of the best out here, and this is going to be fun.
The end of the day, and this is a weird question, but I'll pose it. I know how we all view Coach Dungy, and we all see you as this amazing leader, amazing father, amazing man, amazing coach. How does Coach Dungy view Coach Dungy?
As someone who the Lord has just blessed with some really, really neat opportunities, I got to Pittsburgh. I had never played defense in my life. I end up being a defensive back and going to the Super Bowl. I end up working for Marty Schottenheimer and Denny Green and Chuck Noll in the coaching profession, 3 of the best ever. Um, End up being a head coach for 13 years and working with some amazing players. I think 9 or 10 of them are in the Hall of Fame now. So I just look at the opportunities that I've had to learn and grow. And sometimes, Rod, I can't even believe it. I just have to say, how does this happen to a kid from Jackson, Michigan? And I'm just very thankful and grateful.
And post sports, post football, just still doing amazing work out there. I mean, just your philanthropy is one thing, and then I mean, you still get to show up on TV every week with their football season, which is kind of cool.
It is hard to believe that people can actually pay you for watching games and talking about football. I can't believe that, but it does give me a chance during the week now to be able to be in the Tampa area and do things in the elementary schools and do things at our church and do things in the city, which is a great feeling. And then to be around my peers and friends and around some of these young players and get to watch amazing football. I feel like I got the greatest life in the world.